Donald Trump was caught blindsided as 18 Republicans, and many of them MAGA Republicans, defected, voted against Donald Trump on a discharge petition to go around MAGA Mike Johnson. And one of the critical pieces of legislation that they voted for was aid to Ukraine, which Donald Trump has been trying to stall and block, as well as sanctions against Russia, at the same time and on the same day that Donald Trump sent a delegation to St. Petersburg to bend the knee to Russia and basically beg for economic cooperation there. Now, this follows GOP defections in the House the day before, GOP defections in the Senate, and we are finally beginning to see Republicans standing up to Donald Trump as we approach the midterms. And so I'm sure you know by now, about 48 hours ago or so, Republicans, at least 4 of them, joined forces with the Democrats to pass a war powers resolution in the House. So the House of Representatives voted to block Donald Trump's unlawful and catastrophic war in Iran. The Senate Republicans, some of them joined forces with Democrats to previously pass a procedural vote to get to a vote on the war powers resolution that still needs to be passed in the Senate. But as we're dealing now with this reconciliation bill, which Republicans were supposed to pass weeks ago at this time, where they want to give more funds to ICE and Border Patrol, we're seeing numerous amendments in the Senate as well being added by Democrats to block Donald Trump's slush fund, which Trump claims, all right, we're not going to do that anymore, but they're not willing to put that in writing. And there's a number of other the Golden Ballroom and other things where we're seeing lots of Republicans join forces now with the Democrats in order to say enough is enough, Donald. And I think this is a really big deal. Going back to that war powers resolution from 48 hours ago, 4 Republicans joined forces with the Democrats there, and Donald Trump was ranting and raving about that all throughout the night and all throughout the day. He's like, it's a meaningless vote. 4 bad Republicans and all of the Democrats vote to limit my war powers right in the middle of my final negotiations to end the war with the Islamic Republic of Iran. Who would do such an unpatriotic thing? Actually, Donald, patriots would do such a patriotic thing to actually follow the Constitution. Oh, now you're doing your final negotiations. You're right there on the finish line. You've been saying that since mid-March. You have a deal. It's about to happen. 48 hours, 24 hours. Barack Ravid from Axios posts, the deal is really coming this time. Oh, they're working on an MOU, a memorandum of understanding. They're doing a framework to agree to a framework, to agree to negotiate. Folks, the Strait of Hormuz is about to be open. Super serious this time. Enough is enough. The law says that you need authorization in the first place for war. But if you're trying to claim, well, it wasn't a war when it was a war, you want to say it's a conflict. No, let's be very clear. It's a war and you're a war criminal. Let's be very clear about that. But then after 60 days, whatever the hell you're calling it, you then require authorization from Congress after you begin hostilities if you want to try to do an end run around war, which is the province and power of Congress. 60 days have well passed. We're getting to day 100 at this point. The Strait of Hormuz remains closed. Iran has its nuclear material. They have their ballistic missiles and Shahed drones and their missile launchers. The Islamic Republic is more entrenched in power. They've been solidifying their power and alliances each and every day. And so the war powers resolution is something that's absolutely needed and existential. And frankly, you never had the power to begin with. Let's go back to yesterday and last night, 18 House Republicans voting in support of this Ukraine aid bill. It's a really big deal. As we wrote on the MeidasTouch account, the House passed the Ukraine Support Act 226 to 195. That's overwhelming, folks, to provide new military aid to Ukraine and impose tougher sanctions on Russia. The bill advanced through a discharge petition, despite MAGA Mike Johnson efforts to block the vote. 18 Republicans and former Republican Kevin Kiley broke with the leadership to vote for it. I guess he's saying he's an independent now. Here's the list of the 18 Republicans: Bacon, Bresnahan, Carey, Fitzpatrick, Garabino, Jimenez, Hurd, Joyce, Kiggins, LaLota, Lawler, McCall, Miller, Murphy, Newhouse, Thompson, Turner, Wilson, Kiley. A lot of those individuals in very difficult elections in the midterms as well. So after that happened, guess what? MAGA Mike and his majority whip, Tom Emmer, announced members are advised that following the vote on H.R. 2913, that's the Ukraine Support Act, no additional votes are expected this week. Next votes are expected at approximately 6:30 p.m. on Monday, June 8th. This is a change from the previously announced schedule. Go home, everybody, until Monday. We don't want you to continue to vote against Der Führer. Go home.
Let me interrupt for just a minute with some important news because hurricane season officially begins June 1st and experts are warning that the United States may not be prepared. NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, just released its 2026 hurricane season outlook, forecasting between 3 and 6 hurricanes this season, including up to 3 major hurricanes. And because of El Nino conditions, forecasters are also predicting an above-average hurricane season in the Pacific. Here's what makes this all worse, though. Donald Trump's cuts to weather forecasting and disaster response agencies have left the country dangerously vulnerable heading into hurricane season. Trump fired or planned to cut roughly 2,300 workers at NOAA, including hurricane hunters and severe storm researchers. The National Weather Service is now so understaffed that nearly half of forecast offices are critically short on personnel, and about a quarter of offices don't even have a meteorologist in charge. And because of staffing shortages, the government has already reduced or eliminated some weather balloon launches that meteorologists rely on for accurate forecasting during major storms. At the same time, Trump and congressional Republicans cut funding for weather forecasting research while FEMA has been gutted with plans to slash more than 11,000 jobs from the agency. And here's what's especially alarming. Reports show that under Trump, disaster aid approvals have become heavily politicized. I'm sure you've all seen this. Democratic-led states have reportedly received federal disaster approvals at dramatically lower rates than Republican-led states. This isn't some sort of abstract political debate anymore. We're talking about hurricane forecasts, evacuation warnings, emergency response times, and whether families can rebuild after disaster strikes. Former NOAA official Monica Medina warned that these cuts are, quote, putting families, businesses, and communities in danger right as hurricane season begins. So now I want to hear from you. Do you trust the Trump administration to handle major natural disasters? Have you noticed changes in weather alerts or emergency preparedness where you live? And what do you make of all these cuts to NOAA, the National Weather Service, and FEMA? I also want to just hear your thoughts on our climate segments here in general. Let us know down in the comments right now. I'll be reading all of them. Okay, Ben, back to you.
Republican Congressmember Don Bacon of Nebraska writes, tonight, the House faced a Churchill versus Chamberlain moment. Stand on the side of freedom and democracy, or show weakness to an invading thug who wants to restore Russian domination over a free people. Tonight, we chose Churchill. And so in his example, who is Chamberlain? Donald Trump. Look what Donald Trump did yesterday, where they announced that they would not be giving tomahawks to Germany after the day before telling NATO through the Supreme Allied Commander there, Grinkowicz, that the United States was not going to be giving NATO critical weapons that were promised to NATO. So utterly pathetic and traitorous and treasonous from this despicable Trump regime. As I mentioned on the Senate side, Murkowski, Husted, Sullivan, Moran, Tillis, Collins all voted with Democrats to restrict public and private funding for East Wing renovation ballroom without authorization from Congress. Also, many of them voted to reduce to writing the rule that says that Donald Trump can't have this $1.8 billion January 6th slush fund. And then it should also be noted that Republican Senator Bill Cassidy from Louisiana filed a motion in support of a lawsuit against Donald Trump and Trump's DOJ. Now, Bill Cassidy is a Republican from Louisiana who just lost his primary after Donald Trump endorsed Bill Cassidy's opponent in the Louisiana Republican primary. Now, Bill Cassidy joined forces with, drum roll please, New Jersey Democratic Senator Cory Booker. They joined forces together and called out Donald Trump's unlawful and unconstitutional so-called $1.8 billion weaponization fund. And while you may be saying, well, didn't I hear that Donald Trump said that this fund is no longer in existence? Donald Trump's not willing to put that in writing, and we know that Donald Trump always engages in bad faith. So here's the lawsuit and here's the motion from Republican Bill Cassidy. He says Cassidy and Booker are members of the Senate and they have strong interest in supporting the legislative branch as senators. It says they are United States senators who took an oath to support and defend the Constitution. They write not as partisans, but as representatives of the taxpayers whose funds have been committed to this scheme without statutory authorization, and as legislators who retain a direct constitutional stake in ensuring that the executive branch does not convert the public monies into an instrument of political reward. The Anti-Weaponization Fund presents each of those concerns in their most acute form, including the award of monies to those who stormed the Capitol on January 6th. Amici respectfully urge this court to recognize what's at stake in this litigation is not an ordinary dispute about executive spending authority or the boundaries of clemency power. It is a question of whether the machinery of a democratic government may be turned by design and with explicit intent against the democratic foundations it exists to serve. The establishment of the Anti-Weaponization Fund violates the spending appropriations and appointment clause of the Constitution. The fund is also the result of a collusive settlement and therefore ineligible for judgment fund monies appropriated by Congress. It's from a Republican senator right there. But more than just the votes, let's take a look at what some of these Republicans were saying on Capitol Hill. As it relates to the War Powers Resolution, here's what Congress members Barrett, Massey, Fitzpatrick, and others had to say to Manu Raju. Let's play this clip.
How much pain are your constituents feeling as a result of this war?
Well, I think that people are frustrated, certainly, but that's not the only consideration in this. There are a variety of considerations that we have to take into account, but I definitely see that. I definitely feel what people are experiencing back home.
The vote is a good vote. Mm-hmm. It says we're done with this war.
Yeah.
You didn't come and get authorization, and now we're doing the opposite of authorizing. We're deauthorizing.
There's a law on the books, and the law's 60 days. I don't see what's complicated about it. Bring it to Congress, debate it on the merits, and have us vote. That's the way the system's supposed to work.
Do you think he's going to come after you? Are you worried about it?
No. I got to do my job. And we'll continue to do my job.
As it relates to some of Donald Trump's other behavior, here is what Republican Senator from North Carolina, Tom Tillis, had to say. It's Republican Tillis. Let's play this clip.
Senator Tillis, you on this weaponization fund, if this does not get added to the bill, could you support passage?
No, I'm not gonna vote to get off. I voted to get on it with the goal of potentially getting an amendment done or supporting some other members' amendment.
So why is this so important to get this, to target the weaponization fund here is it because the president has kept this option open?
Well, even the AG has said that it's done. So I don't know why we just don't codify it so Democrats are not raising the speculation that it come back at some point. If the AG has said that, then why not codify it? It doesn't seem to be at cross purposes with the admin, and it takes that argument away from the Democrats. That's a win-win, in my opinion.
How do you feel about him?
What about Todd Blanche? And could he get through the committee? Would he have your support? Could he get through the floor?
Well, I actually believe that getting this issue off the table improves Todd's chances of getting through judiciary and getting through the floor. If this is still out there, can you imagine what the Democrats are going to do to that man during a confirmation hearing?
But just to be clear,
can you imagine how that could potentially influence a couple of our members? We take this off the table. Todd's chances of becoming confirmed as the AG go up, I believe, immensely.
But if it's not off the table, could you support if the weaponization fund is not completely off the table? If you don't codify it into law, could you support Todd Blanche as Attorney General?
We're looking at it. I haven't made a decision yet. The key for Todd or anybody going through Judiciary Committee is being pretty tight on January the 6th. They better not have said for 1 minute that the people that beat up police officers like these right down here were righteous people. You come even close to saying that, you don't have a chair of getting my vote in Judiciary.
It sounded like the night that the president didn't think that this weaponization fund had been put to bed. I mean, does Todd Blanche
Well, then,
need to clean
you
this
know
up
what?
again?
Then the right hand and the left hand need to figure out what the hell they're doing, because I heard a guy who just got put forth as AG say it's dead, and if it's dead, we should be able to codify that and be done with it.
Also, Tillis called Bill Pulte, who Donald Trump has appointed to be his director at ODNI, Office of Director of National Intelligence, despite the guy having no intelligence background. The guy was appointed by Donald Trump to run Fannie and Freddie and to run an obscure housing agency that deals with mortgages, which he then used to look up everybody's mortgages who's against Donald Trump to launch prosecutions against them with the corrupt DOJ. And now Trump made this guy the head of ODNI, the Office of Director of National Intelligence, when the guy has no qualifications for this at all. He's just like a trust fund kid who did, mortgage stuff. Anyway, here's what Tillis had to say about that. Let's play this clip.
I think he's the worst form of sycophant and advisor to the president that is going to hurt the president's legacy.
Any issues of Bill Pulte as acting DNI?
Don't know much about his background. I'm waiting on the administration to explain to us credentials.
I'm Bill Pulte. Are you planning on trying to scuttle FISA over Pulte's appointment?
Section 702 is the most important tool we have to protect our country. But I wonder, does the president want to kill Section 702? I've yet to talk to a Republican that doesn't think this is an outrageous choice. Is anybody going to tell the emperor in the White House that he has no clothes on this one?
Well, then I bring you to the House floor so you can see the speech that Republicans were giving against Donald Trump. Here's what Don Bacon said on the House floor itself. Play this clip.
Are we going to stand with good, or are we going to stand with evil? That's what this is about tonight. Ukraine is a democracy. It's a free market. It's rule of law. It's been invaded by a dictator who throws his enemies off of roofs, poisons his adversaries, and he attacked his neighbor, which is 4 times smaller than Russia. What's the goal? To eliminate their independence, to eliminate them as a culture, as a people, because he wants to control those old borders of his that he has had. We got to stand for the good side tonight. What does this bill do? It provides $1.3 billion in direct military aid and $8 billion in military sales, and provides tough sanctions on Russia. We should have done this a year ago. We could have done this in a bipartisan way a year ago, but we have not. This decision is needed now. Russia is bombing Ukrainian cities every night with ballistic missiles and hypersonic missiles, and we better be there to help them. Or in the history books, it's going to say United States failed when it's most needed. And I know this. I want this House to stand on the right side. I want Republicans to stand where Ronald Reagan would be if he was here right now. Ronald Reagan would be voting yes tonight. He'd be standing up for Ukraine and opposing Russia. This is our Churchill moment, or our Chamberlain moment. And by God, I'm going to choose Churchill, and this House better choose Churchill tonight. With that, I yield.
But I got to say, look, while this video is focusing on Republican defections against Donald Trump, I do appreciate the moral clarity of AOC, Congresswoman AOC. Here's what she told our Scott McFarlane, the head of the MeidasTouch Network's Washington, D.C. Bureau. Watch this exchange. Let's play it.
Ma'am, what do you think your constituents think about these vanity projects Trump's undertaking in D.C., from the Kennedy Center to the arches and ponds?
Yeah, I think people think that this is, that the reflecting pool and the ballroom and all of these things are almost like a joke. But the reality is that for my constituents, who are being kicked off of food assistance, who in New York State, our essential plan that covers people at the bottom rung of income availability to get healthcare, the entire essential plan in the state of New York is being eliminated. Healthcare plans across the country are being eliminated or completely changed in order to accommodate $1 trillion cut in our healthcare system. So when people see a ballroom and they see at the same time their health insurance getting cut off, they know that they are paying for that ballroom with no healthcare, higher grocery prices, and increasingly impossible to afford housing. And so I think people are pissed off about it, and they should be. It's wrong. This is a complete theft of our money. This is what I want people to understand. This is our money. When you pay your taxes, that money that you are paying is being stolen to pay for a vanity project in a ballroom or to renovate the Kennedy Center or whatever it is that this guy wants to do, instead of actually what it should be, which is paying your taxes so that you actually get something good back for it.
Well, there you have it, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Hit subscribe. Double check that you're subscribed. You may think you're subscribed, but you may not actually be subscribed. Help us get to 7 million subscribers. Thanks for being a Meidas Mighty. Thanks, everybody.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.